is News Talk 28, focusing on the issues that matter to Michiana. And now your moderator, Jay Dunlap.
Hello and welcome to News Talk 28. Today we focus on the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. While the agreement includes the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, nearly all the controversy surrounds the flight of U.S. jobs to Mexico's cheap labor pool. Opponents of NAFTA say since 1979, 2.75 million manufacturing jobs have left the Northeast and Midwest of the U.S. alone. Not necessarily all of those have gone to Mexico, but they say the job loss will get only worse if NAFTA is approved. Supporters note that trade restrictions have been loosened between the U.S. and Mexico over the last 6 to 7 years. They argue that in 1986, the U.S. had a trade deficit with Mexico of more than $5 billion. But with easing of restrictions, the U.S. now has a trade surplus with Mexico over $5 billion. Joining us to hash out the complicated issues, our businessman Bob Jackson. He's a chairman of the Empowerment Network of Michigan, hails from Benton Harbor. Don Vanette is president of the AFL-CIO's Northern Indiana Central Labor Council. And Mike Yoder is president of the Elkhart County Farm Bureau. We thank all of you for joining us, and also adding his questions and the insights to the interview process is South Bend Tribune fine political writer Jack Colwell. Well, gentlemen, if we're already losing jobs and we're already improving our trade deficit, and in fact have a trade surplus with Mexico, is NAFTA going to change anything?
Well, I don't think NAFTA is going to be the only answer. As you say, the trends are all there. We are doing more business with Mexico. They are our closest neighbor. We are developing more jobs there. We have a trade surplus. It means that we have, in fact, developed net new jobs here in the United States by doing better and freer trade in Mexico. By coordinating with Mexico and Canada, don't forget Canada is part of this whole NAFTA agreement, we become the largest trading bloc in the world. We have the largest market, and we have then the compatibility between three major countries that are going to be very effective in the international market. So I see it as a progress that it's going to continue.
Don Vanette, I trust you see that differently.
I see it differently. I see if NAFTA is ratified in its present form, that'll open up the border to Mexico. Companies, corporations, multinational corporations will more freely be able to move in across the border into Mexico. And the reason for that is low wages in Mexico. That's the only reason they're moving there, really, is to get away from environmental regulations in the United States and the wage rates in the United States. We don't see this great rush of companies moving to Canada. And the reason we don't is because Canada's wages are even better on an hourly wage basis than they are here in the United States. So the big rush is going to be, if NAFTA passes, is going to be towards Mexico.
Mike Yoder, it seems that American farmers, with perhaps the exception of some citrus farmers and maybe peanut farmers, are in favor of NAFTA.
For the most part, the major ag groups are in favor of NAFTA. We do have some of the minor ag groups like National Farmers Union, and some of the smaller, more social-oriented ag groups are opposed to it. National wheat growers seem to be opposed to it also, but that's because of some problems we've had with Canada and that free trade agreement. But on the offset, we think the wheat growers are going to actually benefit from this. On the jobs issue, it's interesting to note that, and it's unfortunate in this case, that when jobs move to Mexico, that person's going to know it right now. But we're actually going to see, every study has shown, we're going to see an increase in the jobs in this country, and unfortunately, those people may never know that their job was a result of an increased trade with Mexico. So the opposition here has a ready voice because they know they're going to lose their jobs. But those who are in favor of it, who may gain a job, really don't even know yet.
What kind of jobs are we talking about here, winning or losing? I know some people suggest that the jobs that might be lost to Mexico would be manufacturing jobs that tend here to be relatively high paid, and the jobs we would get in return would be lower paid. Is that possible? Is that a concern?
I think it's more than that. It's, I think, a reflection of the productivity, the educational background. The Mexican labor force is not as educated or as productive as our labor force. I think you're seeing our labor force developing into a higher productivity, higher educated. We must maintain that edge. It's why we are building a trade surplus with Mexico. the labor that Mexico has to offer is years behind where we are, and it must develop into a higher educated, more productive. That also then gets them to where they earn a higher income. By earning a higher income, their standard of living goes up, and that develops, again, additional market for the products that we manufacture. So it's a win-win situation. But right now you see where it is a matching of jobs availability with the productivity that's available, more so than just simply low wages. You're not going to find the high quality productive person in Mexico that you have here. But you do have people that are willing to work, that are not as educated or trained at a lower rate. But that also adds to our ability to compete in the world market. I'll give you a good example. I was in a factory in China just about 3 months ago, and they were making rail cars for Thailand. They were importing castings from Mexico because that was the only place that we could compete competitively to get that casting on those rail cars. The design, engineering, the contracts, and all the higher priced talent was out of National Castings, which is a U.S. firm. So again, by using a coordinated approach on a unified international market, and this is the way the world is going. We are in an international market. The only way we could have participated with what we have to offer in that market was using the castings that were coming out of Mexico, which even competed, is interesting enough, was more competitive than what China can do themselves, which also have a lot of foundries. And that was, again, with our technology. So we're able to build a better competitive edge right here in North America. It's a good mix.
Yes, but you're using Mexican labor.
But I'm also using U.S. engineers, U.S. design, and U.S. capabilities in a world market, which without the Mexican labor, I would not be able to participate here from the United States. So it's kind of like if you want to get into the world market, you participate in the world market. You can't have both sides of the same apple.
Well, what says to me that if NAFTA is passed, then that all we're really looking for is a downward trend on the wages in this country. Otherwise, the minimum wage in Mexico is 60 cents an hour. Mm-hmm. That's a corrupt government, you know, and all the labor unions down there, the free trade labor unions, the ones that are being allowed to exist, can't negotiate, can't get new members in because of the corrupt government. And so what you're saying, I hear what you're saying, that the technology is here, and probably the higher paying job, those are double E's, or they're
electrical
engineers and folks like that are getting
higher
paid
technicians and the developers.
Paid a good wage.
Right.
But everything that they design and everything is built in Mexico, and if it's on maquiladoras, it's even worse.
Maquiladora being the region in northern...
being the region along the Texas border, where American plants have moved in there. So, and we see what's happening down there right now. You know, they're building plants left and right. Once in a while you hear where they brought some work back, General Motors brought some work back, and they say it's because of the productivity and things like that. And to me, I believe that was just a scam to help, and I'm very skeptical and sometimes get very upset about NAFTA.
Now, these plants are being built right now, and of course there is no NAFTA. So could NAFTA, do you think, make that situation worse? Would there be more plants, or is this just inevitable anyway?
Well, I don't know if it would be inevitable anyway, but I think NAFTA will make that worse because all the trade barriers, the exports and imports, and all those barriers are gone. And once they're gone, let me tell you, there was a study done, a poll done of 455 of the top corporations and corporate executives in this country, and they all say that they would more than likely move to Mexico, and also said that more than likely they would use the threat of NAFTA and moving to Mexico in contract negotiations to lower the wages of the people that work for them. So NAFTA has all these bad things, and you know, as we talk about jobs, and I hope sometime during the program we'll get into talk about the environment and what has happened along the maquiladoras. and that kind of thing. But